Okay, we're back to working on the big girl. As you can see, there's a stack sitting on it. That showed up Wednesday before I left for Iowa, so I just set it up there. Not gonna lie, when I felt it slide down and go thunk on the manifold, I might have just giggled to myself a little bit like a schoolgirl. I'm not afraid to admit it. That's gonna make her sound real good. And it looks a lot better than that ugly monstrosity that was on there, especially with all the rust holes it had in it. So I got that's on there. This is all my hardware and stuff to put the lights back together. New lights. We'll see how these work. I actually haven't even opened them yet. Why do those look? No, you're right. I guess they just look big because all the stuff's missing. But this is the dumb stuff that why must you do this crap? Why can't you just put the original plug right back in the original location instead of all this bull crap? Like, why? The housing and everything, I mean, it's not a bad looking light overall. It's just, why must you do dumb shit like this? If it's supposed to replace an OEM part, make it equivalent to the OEM part. But anyway, I digress. So there's that. Clamp for the exhaust. First things first, here is my new dipstick, straight from Kitty Puller. Surprisingly, it comes unpainted. Does it have a made in? Nope. I mean, it looks okay. But, let's see. Well, here, I'm going to set you right there, because I'm going to pull this one out. Oh, it is made identical to this, because they are both soldered together. Yep, everything lines up, so we're good. But like I say, that's a good way to have something not so good happen. So there's that. And then I just noticed what's dripping. Oh, I know what's dripping. Okay, gotcha. I was like, that's not good. I just remembered I just filled a little bit more of the radiator. It's coming out the overflow tube. Okay, we're fine. That's the last thing you want to see. I was like, it wasn't leaking when I left. So, but real quick, I'm going to throw, actually, I think I got some down here. Yeah, right there. Throw that soaker mat there so the dogs don't get into it. Because that is antifreeze, not water. Okay, so first order of business, lights. See, put the new ones in. I don't know if I bother keeping that or if I pitch it. I guess we can. I got a box full of stuff I've taken off this. I guess we could throw it in the box. Ain't no sense in getting rid of it. But let me get my stuff organized here and we'll get the light buckets put back in. Okay, so first thing is these little quarter 20 rubber well nuts that just slide in those holes, and then they work kind of like a rivet, but they're not. When you put the bolts in, it crunches the back up and squeezes it into the hole so that it can't go nowhere. But they work like a rubber isolation dampener dealio. Tell you what, I'd love to be working with the door open right now. It's about 70 degrees. We're in that part of the spring where you have 3 layers on when you get out of bed and leave the house, and then by the afternoon you're stripped all the way down to nothing. So I'd love to be working with the door open right now, but unfortunately Dad's trailer out there's got the home phone on it, and it's kind of hard to edit that out with my editing program, and people have proved in the past that they don't really understand social boundaries, and I've had trouble with people calling excessively. So unfortunately, while I'm in here I have to work with the door shut, but you'll have that on them YouTube jobs, I guess. Okay, I gotta reset that one because I moved that one to get work on it. So run that screw out and clean these guys up a little bit, scrape some of the dirt out of them, and then 1/4 bolts to put them back in, and then the buckets will be back in. All right, I got one in. It fits okay. It's not perfect, but I mean, it fits. I just don't like how it fits. In order to make it work, these have these little nubbins on the back for mounting on a 4-bolt base, and you got to grind those off, and then it'll go back in there far enough. I mean, the benzel works, it mounts with the correct screws, it pulls up good, it sits in there square, it's kind of tight. So I don't think this is the ultimate solution. For what I paid, I mean, they were cheap, so no big loss. These will go in there and work for now, and I'll search for something I like better. But anyhow, there's that. All right, we're both in and hooked up. So real quick before I throw the benzels in, we will see if they work. They should. We had power. These are high beam, low beam, so it should work correctly. Work lights, road lights. Nope, not that one. We want bright. There was I'll have to look at the wiring diagram, because they did mention that in some cases they might be pinned differently than normal. So let me do some investigating here. Oh wait, or do I need to? No, because the light in the dash came on, so I don't need to turn the key on. So let me do some investigating here. Alright, I did indeed have to repin the plugs. They had, let's see, how did they have that? Orange and white is dim, and they had that goes to ground on the way they pinned this plug. It was, so they were all wrong, so I repinned them correctly to match up, and now I got this light working, so I just got to repin this guy. Okay, take 2. We want dim. Hey look, we got light. This should just be the top half, and it is. And then dim, or not dim, bright. Oh, that's bright. Is the whole light. Sweet. Oh yeah, she looks good with her eyeballs in. I mean, they're really not bad looking lights, in all honesty. I just wish they fit a little better, but anyway. Finish buttoning this guy up, and we'll move on to the stack. Okay, so onto the stack. And the one trick to getting this to work is going to be that we have to get that guy inside of that pipe if this is going to work right. It should fit, because it should. So, but we got to get it cut out first. And if nothing else, should be able to, if it won't quite fit in, put it in our crimper without any dies in it and bump it down a little bit. should be able to. So, step one, get that thing sawed out of there. Okay, mission accomplished on reclaiming that. So now we gotta figure out how to get this thing in that thing. And it's bigger than I thought it was gonna be, so what it might take doing is splitting it at that weld seam and closing it up until it'll slide up in there. And then once that's in, we can figure out how to weasel the pipe up in there, which should be able to get this in, clean that lip up real good, get that in there, figure out where it's going to be, drill a couple, 2-3 holes around the outside of this, plug weld that in, put a, see, it's going to go in the tractor, point out, so this is going to be, so put a hole, depending on how far up I want to put that, put a hole here that we can bend an S tube. Actually, it'd be a, so kind of a Z. Snake that up in, because it's only got to go up when this is in there. The original one only basically went up to the center of these points. So if we can snake it in and sneak it up, you know, get the hole fairly close to the bottom of this so we don't have a big long tail, and then in there, and I think this will work. I think it should. Alright, a whole lot of jacking around later, I ended up cutting it into three pieces, and just you couldn't get it. It needed to come all the way apart. Just so happened I got lucky. We had 2 pieces of 5-inch exhaust pipe down in the barn, so I could use that for a jig. Unfortunately, my fitment leaves a little bit to be desired. I was sneaking up on it, and I took one more cut, and apparently that one more cut was just a lot too much. So, but I should be able to make it look halfway decent with a little bit of finesse. And then I went, once I got them to where they would fit inside of a 5-inch pipe, I went and ground some teardrops off of the nubbins so that the same size pipe will fit through for the aspirator. So we got plenty of room there. So that can go in the scrap. So I'll get the welder out, and I'm going to try to get this done tonight. So that tomorrow all we got to do is bend up our Z pipe and weld everything in and shoot coat of heat paint on it and call her good. But we shall see, because it's going to take a hot minute to weld this up. Alright, there's the almost finished product. It slides in perfect, actually. You can shove it in there as far as you want. So, a tad bit loose, but should be able to get in there when I go to weld it with a clamp. We've got a long, vice grip clamp that'll reach in there, pull it out to weld it. But last thing I got to do is cut some teardrops to fill those holes. Okay, we're back the next day. It was 10 o'clock last night by the time I got done welding on this, and I just wanted to get stuff cleaned up to go home and get dinner. So, but I got all the teardrops welded in, so all the holes are plugged up. It's all cleaned up. I re-rounded it in the crimper. Luckily, it just fit, and I was able to make both ends round so it fit decent. And the pipe still fits all the way through the center, so that's good. But measuring it out in the muffler, the pipe's got to come up here about 3 inches inside the way it laid out in the how it was assembled. And I want all the carnage to happen at least no more than 12 inches from the base of the pipe, because that'll keep everything down well down under the hood, so that all the good paint and everything stays up there, and all this bit down here you can't see. So anyhow, it fits in there. I mean, you can slide it in there nice. So now it's just a matter of figuring out, and I think I'm going to shoot. Let's see, how long are the jaws on this guy? I got about 10 inches, which I probably don't want to go, because the trick's going to be, I don't want to weld that in first before I get the pipe in, because it would be nice to have the leeway to be able to slide that thing in there, or up and down a little bit. If, like, say I had to sneak the pipe in and it was in the way, I could slide it up, get the pipe in, pull the venturi back down where it needs to be. So it'd be nice to get everything dry fit before I put my ring of holes in to plug the venturi in. So basically at this point I have to figure out roughly how deep I want that up in there, and then figure out my whole location for my aspirator pipe to go in, get the hole in it, get the aspirator pipe bent, figure out where everything's going to land, drill my ring of holes around the outside to plug weld the venturi in, and then go ahead and weld everything in. So it's going to be a little bit of a trick. Okay, so slight snag on the exhaust. Dad's bender will not make a tight enough radius, an 1.5-inch tube, to get what I need to get. So I had to get online and buy 2 45-degree mandrel bends, and we'll have to make it that way. So those will be here Friday, so I won't be able to finish up the exhaust until probably Friday. So with that being said, we're going to switch gears, because I'm pretty much done up there, other than fan belts, which I still haven't got yet. So next step, steering cylinders. This is going to be interesting because I do not know exactly how these pins come apart. They look like taper locks and all, because there's a split. They look like taper locks, but I guess I haven't looked at the parts breakdown either. But what's the fun in that? We'll pop that nut off of there and see what they look like. Hopefully they don't fight too hard coming out. What we got? There are. I think they're bigger than that. Yeah, they're bigger than that. Probably like 1 inch. That's 1 5/16. Probably like 1.5 inches. The bigger they are. Dang, except he didn't have 1.5 inch box end down here. So we'll see if that's what size they are, and then I'll go. Oops. inch and 3/8. No, yeah. That's gonna be the one in between. Nope, not inch and 3/8. What am I missing? Inch and 3/8. Inch and 1.5 is too big. Inch and 3/8 is too small. What would it be? Inch and 7/16? That's kind of a goofy size. Alright, let me find a socket that fits this, I guess. Okay, inch and 7/16. If I remember right, these, I think the big ones there in the center, if I remember right, torque up to 200 or torque up to 400. I think these small guys torque to 200. I think. But give spec for them. Which the service manual for this thing is, well, I guess lacking is the best way to put it. And that's part of the reason I was hoping to be able to talk to Dean when I was out in Iowa. I was told that he had some better documentation on these, but didn't get a chance to talk to him, so I don't know for sure. Also just noticed that that plate is added with a little kind of some booger welds going on there. There's supposed to be a pickup sensor there, magnetic pickup sensor, because it reads your ground speed off of these little flags on the dry shaft yoke. But I'm guessing the original one either broke off or something. Anyhow, that flat washer is stuck. Alright, so it is indeed a little fancy taper lock like you would see on a pulley. Just had to clean the threads out. I guess we'll see how cooperative it wants to be. It's looking like extremely cooperative. Unfortunately, we don't have any all thread 3/8 bolts longer than this. Well, that makes me feel better. I was afraid it was going to be more of a fight than that. Of course, these things they're greased, so okay, I wonder if a little pry bar, it wasn't moving hard. There's a die bar right there. There we go. It's a coming. This would be better if you had longer bolts. You could just run it out with the bolts. I don't think we have any 3/8 threaded rod that I would trust to do this without snapping. Oh, so it's kind of a reverse taper. It looks like the taper is actually on the inside and it draws the pin up into it, maybe. You just had to whack it hard enough. It's actually got a little bit of a tapered head on the bottom too that seats up in there. So a couple good thwacks and she came right out. And that being said, I don't fully understand is that oh, that one's completely okay. How the holy heck? It's not hollow, that's all solid. This is going to be interesting to see how they did that one. Huh. Well, first things first, 1/2-inch bolt. Okay, I had to go up to the parts, or look in the parts book and figure out how the heck this menagerie worked. So, it appears, at least in the parts book, there's another taper lock up here. And the pin's a double taper and it goes up in. You got one that comes up from the bottom. You got this long ass 5/8 bolt that goes all the way up there. So you'd get that out, which is fine. Taper lock comes out the bottom. Well, then you still got the taper up here holding the pin. So there's a threaded hole in the bottom of there. And the manual does, or the I have the shop manual for this, but it's only like yay thick. I mean, normally shop manual is like yay thick, you know. So that's why I had to look at the parts book to see exactly how they did this, so I could figure out how to get it apart. I mean, it was obvious. It was kind of obvious what they wanted you to do, but so we thread a 3/4 inch if I can get it to start. Here we go. So we thread a stud up in here. And then I think then we gotta put a piece of pipe big enough to span that hole. And then we got this big washer here. This is all stuff we just had laying around in the scrap pile. And then I just need 1 1/8 wrench, which I don't have out yet. And then that pin, you just got to pull on it hard enough to pop that taper. If that's, because the steering cylinder, where am I looking? 1 1/8 wrench. The steering cylinder in the picture, well, this area looks different, so I don't know if there was a update or if they were all like this and the picture just looks goofy. That wrench feels so dang loose. Okay, now hope if you can hit it. There it went. Just like that. And then now, that cylinder should be loose. And it is. So I gotta unhook these hoses real quick, which we are going to probably, most likely, replace those, because I don't think it's too bad to do them. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't tube part of that, but they just go up and then up in front of the cab to the steering motor, so I'll have to pull that side panel off, but it's real easy to get to, so they're there. Might as well do them, but cylinder first. All right, this cylinder's off. I got the pins out of the other one. I'm wondering if the one on the left side's been rebuilt already, because it came apart a lot easier and everything had copper anti-seize on it. I'm still going to take it apart and rebuild it that way, I know, but the other side has been off somewhat recently, because everything it came apart like you took it or put it together yesterday. So, but we're going to start taking this guy apart, and I hope to have at least this one rebuilt tonight. So to do that, we have to, where can I set you? Hold on. So this is a snap ring cylinder, so the first thing we got to do is take this plate off that draws the gland out against the snap ring. So there's 2 bolts that hold this on. And then you just take a punch and drive the gland back yay far, and it'll expose the snap ring, and you peel that out. Okay, I already got it started out of the groove, but here's the snap ring after you drive. This is a lot easier when I've got use of the vise, but as you can see, there's a little bit of a cylinder in it. So there's that. And then now I'll have to throw it in that vise, and then you just use the rod and piston itself and use it like a slide hammer and pull the whole assembly out of the tube. It would appear she's still got a little bit of oil to puke. And I need a piece of pipe. You gotta be careful how hard you yank once it's part way out of the tube, or you're gonna fall back when the whole thing comes at you. Here's the gland. Come on, get it back on there. Okay. Oh, and I don't really understand. I think I just had it cocked in there goofy, because I wiggled it a little bit and turned it, and it finally wiggled its way out without much of a fight. So I'm guessing I just had it wedged in a goofy fashion. Yeah, there is. Oh, what seal? It's broken into about 20, 30 pieces. I'm surprised. I'm honestly surprised it didn't leak worse than it did. That's pretty bad. Okay, so now I'm going to get everything cleaned up. Tube's still over in the vise. I stuck it down there at an angle so that it can drain. And get all the grease and stuff cleaned up off of this, scraped off of it. Finish taking the seals and stuff off, and then we put it back together. Alright, the gland's got some crusties on it, so to clean that up, just going to chuck it up in the lathe. And lightly hit it with some emery cloth. Alright, so I gutted it before I started cleaning it. Nothing really looked. The piston seal, that nick right there, I did not put that in it getting it out. That was in it. So I don't know if it had to have happened at the factory because there ain't nothing in the rod. But anyway, this was our problem child right here. This is what's left of the rod seal. It came out. That's how it came out. I didn't break it. So, like I say, I can't believe that it wasn't leaking a lot work. I mean, it was just kind of a little bit of a drip at certain times. So the fact that it wasn't leaking profusely was amazing. But everything else came out looking halfway decent for its age. So, but this stuff can all get thrown away. The stupid thing is, when I ordered these seal kits, you couldn't order them as a kit. Basically, what Emily had to do was she went through the cylinders and pieced everything out individually because for some reason there's a kit part number, but it doesn't go anywhere anymore. Well, I mean, it probably makes sense because 40-something-year-old tractor, they only built so many of to begin with. But anyhow, for some stupid reason, they couldn't get a new piston seal. Got the O-ring for it, couldn't send the seal. So luckily Dad had it, and that's the weird part. It's a standard piston seal. There's absolutely nothing special about it. So why she couldn't get, like I say, that's the backup ring that's supposed to go in there. But Dad stocks these things because they're a common size in a lot of things. So he had that on the shelf, so that's in there. There's a piston seal and then an O-ring behind it that energizes it. So that's what's in there. So I need some assembly lube and then we can throw this together. Okay, so first this goes in the piston, and that's what seals on the rod so the oil can't blow past the piston and switch sides, because you don't want that, or the cylinder will leak, or well, the cylinder will drift. So we'll put that in here right quick just to start getting rid of parts. It's kind of a heavy durometer O-ring. And they did kind of make this a little bit complicated. Normally they just kind of sit in a little bit of a bore all the way at the back and it butts up against. This one's actually got a bore out from the back of the face a little bit, and it actually seals on the rod, so that's a little different. Okay, so there's that. This is the glide band. It will go on the piston, but we gotta do a step before that can go on. Partial assembly. So now we can do this. We want the rod seal, which is a U-cup. And we're gonna put some grease down in that bore. And then U-cup, lip goes towards the pressure, so it's going to go in that way. So we throw it in our good old seal inverter here. Oops, whoops. Where did it go? There it is. Wrong way. Been a minute since I used one of these. Actually, I can't even remember the last cylinder I rebuilt. I might have to get, oh, I'm going to have to get a smaller one. You get down this small, and sometimes these things can be a bit of a bear. Okay, there's that. And then rod wiper. Like that needs to go in just a wee bit more. Yep. These things aren't really a super tight fit. They're kind of hard to screw up, so. But it's not flush, it's countersunk a little bit, so unless you got a seal driver that is the exact size of that bore, you really can't do a whole lot with it. Okay, so wiper installed, rod seal installed. Next is the gland seal, which is an O-ring and a backup ring. Backup ring is a cupped face. Backup ring goes away from the pressure to back the O-ring up, cup towards the O-ring. So it's going to go in like so. And that's how that looks. And then that'll get lubed up when it goes to slide in the tube. Nope. That's not where I wanted to put that. I wanted to put that in here. Okay, and then gland can go back on. You want to check and make sure you don't got any little rubber burrs hanging off, because that means you cut something and that's a bad day. And then the piston can go on. I'd really like to feel that O-ring slip over before I put the nut on. Throw a little bit more grease in there, eh? That's a tight fit. There we go. Got it. Okay. Now I feel safe putting this on there. When it comes to seals and stuff, I really hate drawing them on mechanically. It just, you can't feel what's going on. You don't know if you're cutting anything. It's just kind of sketchy. Okay, now, get that good and tight. And then, like I say, the step we got to do before our glide band goes back on is, where do you put it? this fancy little dealio, why they chose to make it hot pink, I will never have any, or don't have any clue, is a piston ring. Well, not a piston ring compressor like what you would use on an engine, that kind of piston ring. This is for compressing like seals on cylinders, because when you put that piston seal on, it's kind of a hard plastic. You gotta work it and stretch it a little bit, and then it wants to stay stretched. It will go back on its own over time, but this speeds the process up. It's kind of the theory. But sneak that over a little bit more so it's kind of centered. Dang thing snuck open on me. Okay, so we're gonna let that sit. Once that's compressed, then the glide band can go on, but you don't want this to go on because you don't want to fight it with the compressor. So while this is sitting here doing its thing, we go work on the tube. Okay, so I got the tube washed up, and there's no major flaws in there. I don't really, there's right, man, I can't hold the light in, but like right here about a hand width in, there's a couple little bark marks like there was something dragging at one point, but nothing that's going to hurt the operation of the cylinder. So we're going to give her a quick hone. Can I get back there without an extension? I believe so. I wonder if Dad's got new stones for this thing. Alright, I forgot, that's the hone that Dad can't get stones for anymore. They are NLA, which he's got newer hones, but they're for like actually like cylinder repair. Like you gotta go in and hog some material out to take care of a burr. So this thing, all we really gotta do is clean the rust up here on the outside and kind of shine it up. So what we're gonna do in lieu of having the fine stones on the hone is, well, regardless of whether you're doing what I'm about to do or if you're honing it, you shoot some WD in there, and that acts like a lubricant. And then take a piece of Scotch-Brite and shove in there like a so. And then you take your hone and you just use it like a driver. And it'll bite onto that Scotch-Brite. And this will clean the cylinder without removing any material. Alright, let's see how gracious she wants to be going back in. Oh, that was incredibly kind. Normally they want to fight you going past the groove. Well, that was easy. Huh. That's probably like the easiest one of these that I've ever put back together. Normally they, like I say, normally they get to that snap ring groove and they're like, yeah, we don't want to. Then we give her Good old yank. Oh shit. You know what I just done did? I forgot to put this guy back on. And there ain't no way. Dang it. Alright, well, now I gotta take it back apart, put this on, put it back together. Whoops. Okay, I can't believe I did that, but it's been a long day, so I kind of can. So 2 minutes later, it didn't take me any time to yank that back out. Wham bam, put it back on, so no harm, no foul. But it runs nice and smooth. There's no weeble wobble. So with that, the only thing left to do is put the fittings back in, which I got to clean those up real quick, put O-rings on them, and then this cylinder will be done. Alright, there's one cylinder done, so tomorrow after work I can do that other one off camera, because it's going to be the same thing unless I find something completely off the wall in it, but that one wasn't leaking, so it should be fine. The only thing, it's been apart once, so hopefully it was put back together right. We'll find out. So do those, put them back on, or do that one, put them both back on, and do those hoses, and that'll probably be a video. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Alright, we're back, putting cylinders back on. I already got the other side rebuilt and on. Yeah, it's dark over there, figured to do that one. That other cylinder was a bear to get apart. Don't know why, there was nothing screwed up inside of it. The only thing we could figure is Dad figured out, looking at the O-rings that Mayboss sent me that are the Energizer rings for the piston seals, the ones that AGCO calls out for are actually the incorrect cross section for the groove. So and didn't measure it, I threw them away before we picked up on it. But the only thing I could figure is because that cylinder had been rebuilt, the only thing we can figure, or I can figure, is when they rebuilt it, if they got the seals from Maybaugh, or from an AGCO dealer, I shouldn't just say Maybaugh. If they got the seals from AGCO and they called out for that wrong size Energizer rings, it was too big, it would have overexpanded the seal and tried to wedge in there, which I got to imagine it would have been a bear to get the thing together. But you couldn't move it by hand at all. Had to drive it apart. Took me and Dad, and cleaned everything up, put it all back together, new seals with the correct piston seal in it, slid right in. You could move it back and fit, no problem. So that's the only thing I could figure, because there was nothing was tore up inside the tube, nothing was tore up on the piston, none of the seals were rolled. It was jammed in there. So anyhow, that side's done, back on. So I'm gonna do this side so you can see it's not really a bad process. If I can get you to stand up straight. So the easiest thing to do is put the rod end in first. So get your pin ready. Getting that up in there. And then you can slam that up in and it'll stay. Give her a good few whacks to send it home. Because this is all taper lock, and it's also going to get a little bit of grease in them from just normal maintenance greasing the cylinders. But because they're tapers, I'm not anti-seizing any of this, because normally they don't want you to anti-seizing tapers. So basically clean everything up real good on all the mating surfaces, get them as clean as you can, no dirt. And by all rights, if everything still fits snug, which they're tapers, they're gonna fit snug, everything's gonna fit so tight together that it's not gonna be able to rust anyhow. So it's kind of a moot point. And then we got nut and washer, and this torques up. This one torques up to 200 foot-pounds. Actually, tell you what. Okay, there's that side. Then put that side in. And this side has not thrust washers, spacer washers. Why they bothered to put washers on that side and not that side, I don't know. I guess I could look in the parts book and see if this side's supposed to, but there wasn't any when I took it apart. And this cylinder clearly has not been off in a while, so the other side I could see if they were missing, if that one's been apart and they lost them, but this side not so much. Put this pin in. I want to make damn sure you put it in with the threaded end down. I was kind of surprised they didn't make these pins threaded on both ends so that it didn't matter which way was up, which way was down. But if you wedge that thing in there with the plain side down, I mean, I'm not saying you can't get it out, but it would probably involve cutting the pin out, because I don't know how else you get a hold of it to drag it out of there if you couldn't get in to thread a bolt in there. So make double damn sure that one goes in the right way. Give it a couple taps to make sure it's home. I am anti-seizing the threads on these two bolts, because as long as these things are, granted they're upside down, so by all rights shouldn't, other than like the casting sweating, really should be able to get any moisture or dirt in there to rust them up. But as long as these things are, if they do rust and you do snap one off, you're gonna have a bad time. And then that one torques to 150. And it's sketchy because that long bolt has a lot of twist to it. And you can feel it twisting while you're torquing it. And it just makes you really nervous. Because when the bolt has that much flex, it takes it a hot minute to get to 150 foot-pounds. Okay. There we go. Alright. Cylinders are installed. When you're doing this, you also want to make sure you got the rod end flipped the right way so that the grease circ's out where you get to it, because if it's flipped the other way, that's kind of pointless. So, next step, gotta pull that side shield so I get to the steer motor and do those steering lines real quick. Clean my mess up a little bit first. Alright, so basically all 4 hoses come up into that divider block right there. They go in the back of it right there. So they're not too terribly hard to get to. I just would like to be able to do one at a time, which I should for the most part be able to. So looks like it's the same size wrench I used down here. There is so much room right here with the fuel tank not being in the way that I can dang near crawl in this hole and work. If the tires were spaced out a little bit more, I could, but I can't make my body bend to go in there like I need to. But trying to shed some light on the situation. I think this here should be the first one I want. Alright, I think we're free. I just need to get it fished out of there, figure out what I'll hook to. Alright, I got all the hoses in. There was a really tight space to work in. There was no way to get decent video of it, and everybody's watched me make hoses before, so I figured I'd just blow through that real quick. It took me about an hour to do all 4. Surprisingly, all 4 hoses are the exact same length, all 63.5 inches. I figured for sure, at least since the block is further to that side of the tractor than the other, the 2 on this side would be longer than the 2 on the other side, but nope, all 4 of them the exact same length. So, but everything's tight, everything's tied up all nice, and nothing's rubbing, so she's gonna make a bunch of real angry sounds the first time we go, well, not only the first time we go start it, first time we go to steer it, because everything's gonna be dry. So, I guess tomorrow, after work, I will work on pulling this center bearing carrier out, which shouldn't be too big of a deal. I don't think. Yeah. So basically you just pull all the cap screws, drop all 4 drive shafts. There's 1, 2, 6 bolts. Yeah, 6 bolts hold that entire bearing carrier in, and then you just slide the heavy bastard out the back and through this hole. So that, in theory, should be an evening project, but I doubt it will turn out that way. And then after that, we'll move back to these big things, which I'm not looking forward to because I guarantee you all that them pins are all froze. Guarantee it. Which, these 2, at least you can get to, kinda. The bottom ones, oh, at least the bottom ones are, we got a tab with a bolt, so if nothing else, get the bolt out, get on it with a long, or with a big crescent wrench, and hopefully, put that back on, hopefully, bust those bottom ones loose and work them out. That won't be too terrible. Those are the ones I was fearing the most. So, anywho, I guess try to get this video put up yet tonight so that we're not starting to run over myself with between this, and I got 3 more Charles City videos to get up. So It's late, but I'll get it out of the way. So I guess that being said, that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.